Welcome to my new little series on the 5 most amazing pins or concepts of pins in the chess world. And of course, these are my preferable and personal favourites, so you may differ, but I think you'll find they're all amazing examples. Remember to like and subscribe to this video, and we'll move into these pins in a jiffy. This first example is a nice, simple demonstration of a pin, and it came from the World Championship match between Alekhine in 1927 with the white pieces and CAPABLANCA, two brilliant players. Alekhine with the white pieces. A pin is where you tie down, you pin one of your opponent's pieces to a more valuable piece, so the rook to the queen here. And f4 was now played, and here white removed one of the defenders of the pin piece, the knight defending the rook. And in this position, try to work out how Alekhine took best advantage of this pin, which black cannot get out of. And shortly, CAPABLANCA was forced to resign. Remember to pause throughout this video today and try to work out some of the solutions for yourself. Use that grey matter, boys and girls. Well, here, king to f2 was played. Maybe the rook could have come to that square as well, but I hope you did not want to play rook to c1 here, because rook takes c1 is check, and this is a totally different ball game. But after king f2, a very clever move, maybe some of you found that. Rook c1 is a major threat, and the game finished queen f6. We don't want to allow a check, so g3, g5, and now rook c1 is a simple way to win. So crisp play from Alekhine there. They're going to get a little bit tougher. Let's move on to number 2 now. Well, sticking with the theme of Alekhine, in this case, he was on the receiving end with the black pieces. In another World Championship match, 1935, and this was maybe one of the biggest upsets in the World Championship match, he lost to Max Euwe of the Netherlands, and this game with the black pieces was a key game. It's Max to play and to gain a winning position with a very crafty idea, quite subtle this one. And I do advise you, if you want to find the right move here, you have to really get into the mind of your opponents and think what black is trying to achieve in this position. Can you find Max Euwe's move? Well, if we play a normal move, black is going to go bishop b5. And this is something I think, lower rated players really need to do more. Get into your opponent's mind. So, for example, let's say king f1, bishop to b5, and black gets out of the pin. If we take the rook, the bishop takes. If we take the bishop, we're actually losing after rook takes a1 check. So how can we stop this only one way that black can play to get out of the pin? Well, we played the incredibly clever move, rook to a2. If you found this move, you really are thinking in the right way. And now black is an internal pin. He can't ever get his bishop or rook off the side of the board. Bishop b5 does now no longer work because the pawn takes b5, and our rook on a2 is safely defended. And black is in trouble here, losing, lost. So after this move, rook a2, white simply moved his pawns up the board and got a winning position. We won't look at the rest of the game, just surface to say that black is playing 2 pieces down from here on in. This third example is taken from a game of David Bronstein, often classified as the chess magician, with the black pieces, Hastings 1975. And with a little mini combination here, he creates an unstoppable pin, something I call an eternal pin, like we saw in the last example, where white is completely helpless. And this, I feel, has a lot of beauty to it, this one. Can you see the little sequence that Bronstein put into motion here? Well, he started with queen takes c3 and rook takes e2, which I'm sure you saw. But after this is defended on d2 with rook d5, we come to the main point of this. You might want to pause again here. What is the winning idea? We can already see that the bishop is tying down the least important piece, the knight, to the more powerful piece. So this is a really strong pin, but there's a lovely idea here which stops white from ever getting out of this pin. Rook takes d2, giving up the exchange. Rook d8, increasing the pressure on the pin. Rook d1 is now forced. And if you saw the next move, you're obviously a very strong player. c4. And this is the real point of this combination. Again, quite subtle. That's why I picked these ideas. Why c4, you might be thinking? Well, the idea is to stop white from ever breaking this pin. So again, we've got to think in the eyes of our opponent. What would our opponent be trying to do here? Well, he wants to go c4, c3, king c2. And if he can push those up one file, he breaks the pin. And after c4, there's no moves eventually that white will be able to play. Black can just keep moving the bishop backwards and forwards on this diagonal. And white will run out of moves. Let's just try that. For example, it's very funny. You know, we just keep doing it. It doesn't matter. At some point, okay, we won't even take the pawn. White will run out of moves. And he has to drop the defense at d2 and black will go piece up. Beautiful stuff. Well, it's black to play and win through a very nice combination here. And this is from a game with not so well-known players, ONAT and Nicolas GAVRILAKIS. And in this position, rook b1 has been played. Pause now to try and find the way to win this for black. Well, the way to win this is not what was played in the game. Rook takes b1, which eventually led to a draw, but the idea of bishop a6, combining various pinning motifs to win. And this is a great idea. If the bishop is taken, we win the rook and we'll exchange up. So white has to really take our rook. And now the point behind this, we go bishop takes d3 check. The king has to go to e1. And now the killer pin, bishop to a5. And after a move like king d2, bishop to f1. Bishops are fantastically strong at pinning. Knights are fantastically strong at forking. And this kind of thing would be completely winning for black. So very nice combination of pins there and a nice sweet tactical sequence. This last example is one of the most fantastic escapes that I've ever seen. Well, I say escape, I know that the player of the white pieces, my good friend Grandmaster ARKELL, had planned this well in advance. He was playing the very talented junior, now Grandmaster, I believe, James Holland, or at least an international master. And it looks like white is in all sorts of trouble. There's pins all over the place. For example, if white takes the queen, boom, rook takes e1, checkmate. We don't want to allow that. If we don't do anything here, let's say we go queen takes, I don't know, c6. Black can go queen e3 and then queen f2 checkmate. What else can white play? Well, it's very, very tricky because if something like queen f4, you can lose your rook, and that's the end of the game. There's also even a threat of queen takes f3 in this position. So what move does white play now to gain a better position? And it's an astonishing idea. Can you see it? Tricky one. Pause now, and you'll need to pause, I think. Well, queen to d8. You what, governor? This move is really a great way to pin the rook down to the king. And also, it combines another technique of distraction. You're trying to distract one of black's pieces, the rook or the bishop, away from its aggressive position, allowing us to win the queen. And this gives white the advantage. For example, what can black play? Well, the bishop and rook are on pre. If we go, rook takes d8, and this occurred in the game, white can now take the queen because there's nothing happening on e1. And after some exchanges on e1, just rook e2, and white went on to win this ending where he has a favourable position because the king is quicker to come in. If the other option, bishop takes d8, again, we just take the queen because there's no threats on e1. So queen d8, an astonishing move there that gave Keith the upper hand. And I really hope you like these examples, and they're some of the best examples and historical examples of pins I could find. Remember to like and subscribe to this video and the 5 most amazing or historically important pins that have occurred in chess games over the history. These are obviously a bit subjective. Maybe you think there's some better pins out there that you can link to, but I certainly enjoyed the examples here, which I found through a bit of research. Thank you very much, and I'll hopefully be back with more videos soon.